Welcome to the 35th episode of Boy in Trouble. I'm your host, John X. The best in black man conversation. And some of y'all thought that we couldn't even formulate vowels. Anyway, yeah, I'm one. I was a little bit under the weather today, fellas. It's like it's a weird day for me. I woke up, I was feeling all right. And I got a migraine, and I ain't gonna lie, I probably slept about 8 or 9 hours today, and I still feel exhausted. I'm still exhausted. So usually that can mean one of two things. It can mean I either let everybody go or I say something that's absolutely horrible. Brent, what do you think? Probably horrible? You're back in what too? Mr. Greg
Yeah.
Lancaster. What you saying?
What up, though? Yeah,
What
I
up,
say
John?
I say the odds of you doing something flagrant are plus 100.
Thank you. Thank you. Plus 100. My man, 50 grand, he knows me very well. And of course, from Dayton, Ohio. See, I got it right. So you threw me off last time, Wood, because you said that you didn't like what Cat Williams had said about Akron at one point. So that's why I assumed that you were from Akron. Because you were very you were very serious about it. Like if I see Cat Williams, you're gonna have to run a 440 to get away from me. But you ain't saying nothing like that, but
No, I ain't want no smoke with Cat.
no smoke with Cat Williams. Mr. Reggie Wood.
Greetings. I had worked on another intro earlier, but I forgot it. So greetings.
All right. You'll get another shot. You'll get another shot. And filling in for, I'll get to him afterwards because I got to give this man his own props. Mr. Andrew Johnson, someone who Reggie and I both know from the Wisdom app, is a great conversationalist. Black man, Andrew, how are you feeling tonight? Tell the crowd a little bit about you, what you do, your podcast, let it rip through.
All right. Thanks, my brother. It's a pleasure to be on here with you, gentlemen. I am Andrew Johnson. I do a podcast called the 313 Men, Money, and Marriage. And we talk about the three aforementioned things, men, money, and marriage. And I am looking forward to having this conversation with you guys. And let's chop it up.
Let's chop it up. Now, Andrew, you got the 313. Do you also have a Michigan, Detroit tie there? Is that why you got 313?
That's what everyone thinks. I got that Detroit number actually, but it's but I'll take that. But it was literally the 313 was just when I first was gonna do a podcast on men, money, and marriage, I did a Google search and about 90 different things popped up with the same thing in it. So I says I gotta differentiate myself from everybody else. So what I did is I said, since I'm talking about three things, men, money, and marriage, that's the three. The 13 is the 13th letter of the alphabet. And then the first episode was launched on 3/13/2022. That's just basically how the name came about. But I'll take some Detroit listeners all day. So
all right. Well, you got one right now in the city waiting right now.
Yes,
Absolutely.
and it's it's so strange too. I got so much family up in Michigan, man. It's crazy, but they're more in the Muskegon Heights, Grand Rapids area.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
What else? I give him a special shout out to Mr. Rob Brooks, who won't be here this evening. I think that's probably why I'm a little bit sick, because he's at the baseball meetings right now, which are actually like close to New York. And I felt his presence there as if he was coming to do something evil. So, Rob, I don't know if we're going to catch up while you're here, but big shout out to Rob. And of course, a big shout out to our boy, Mr. Gene Hopkins, who hasn't been able to make it here due to a early morning schedule. We're going to do something special for you, Gene. We're going to do the show earlier, so that way you have no reason to not actually miss our show, because we miss you, brother.
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
Gene Hopkins. We miss you, brother. So, fellas, tonight, we're going to get into the marriage thing. And I was into a very interesting conversation. But first, I'm going to talk about something else that's going on in the news, and it's AI. And the reason why I want to talk about AI is because there's a new technology out that's being supported by, of course, Elon Musk, and they're putting chips. You know, the idea is to put a chip in your head to kind of fill in the gaps of the knowledge that you don't actually know. So you won't actually have to go to college anymore. You won't have to read books anymore. All of this knowledge can be implanted into your head, and you will automatically have it right then and there, which kind of explains a lot of things as far as the direction of the world, what's going on today. How do you fellas feel? Are you lining up to get your AI chips?
Miss me. I'm gonna be the last one on earth with no tattoos and no earrings. So you can miss me 1,000% with a chip.
Mm. Reg, you want to get chipped?
It's kind of tempting to fly that helicopter in the final scene of
Right.
the Matrix.
Yeah, like the Matrix, right?
Matrix to
Yeah.
escape the villains and all of that. But I think I'm gonna be in the back of the line with Grant on that. I think I'm gonna be. I got some tattoos and the earrings, but I think I'm gonna be in it. I'm gonna stand pat with him on this brain free this chip free brain.
Andrew, how do you feel about that? You thinking about getting chipped? Would you get chipped if that technology became available to you?
Well, I'm kind of like Grant. He might be number one, but I'm number two. There ain't no tats and no earrings on this body, so um, I'm gonna be just like him. I'm gonna be they're gonna have to strap me down and put it in my head some kind of way, because I'm not volunteering.
Right.
Well, it's interesting that you put it that way because one of the reasons why I want to discuss this is because we come from a community that has a history of um, unsolicited violation and experimentation. We are the group of the Tuskegee experiments, where they actually
True.
stuck syphilis in people's arms and allowed them to happen. Allowed that to happen. Just watched them over the course of 30 years deteriorate so that way they could study a disease at its worst. Do you think that there's a possibility that with the AI chip, because being that we're the ones that let's be honest, I won't say us per se, everyone on this panel has an attending college or well-read individuals, intelligent individuals. But for a lot of people when we talk about environments, New York City and city school environments are the worst. They're the worst with educating people. They're the worst with providing the building blocks for our young people to actually grow. And do you think that AI chipping some of those people could be sort of like it bridges the gap between the education that you didn't get and the knowledge that's out there in the world? What would make you think that we wouldn't be first in line to actually receive this chip? Or some of these people wouldn't be first, especially since it's experimental. You don't know what can go wrong.
Oh, I think there's a lot of people that would line up for it. A lot of us would line up for it. Us being as Black folk would line up for it because it sounds like a shortcut. You know what I mean? How Neo learned karate in the Matrix, right? He ain't know nothing about karate. All of a sudden, he's a fucking kung fu master. But he just sat down in the chair and they uploaded the information and there he had it. So it sounds like a shortcut. But like I said, I mean, I know a lot of people will line up for it, but I won't be one.
Right. So you feel like there's an educational component to it that could actually help inner city schools? We were talking about the LeBron James school last week. A lot of those kids, I know for a fact because I actually happened to sleep with an early education development specialist. And unlike a lot of people, I actually listen to her. I don't just like play with her boobies all the time and everything, even though that is one of my favorite pastimes. But see, this is what the sickness is. This is what the sickness does to you. It makes you, it just makes you go off on a tangent. But we actually do have conversations about early education and development. And one of the things that we always talk about is, for example, the history of Head Start, the history of Sesame Street and Electric Company. These like shows that have now been privatized in the past like 5 to 10 years were shows that were created to give our generation specifically, because we were kids when these shows first started. And before Morgan Freeman started, like, putting girls in chains and going around and partying, he was actually teaching them in a different way. He's more than just the show's going to go wrong. I can see it already. I got this headache thing going on. I got all these thoughts going really quick. I heard Morgan Freeman. Only thing I heard was like, all right. So anyway, I'm just gonna. I'm not gonna listen. Bro you did a good job working with the Electric Company back in the day. Very educational. But early education is very important for the youth because it develops the pathways for education and for learning. And something that's been taken away from these neighborhoods and from these people in the past 10 years. Do you think that this is something that's going to, do you think that this is something that's going to actually be put into place to actually fill that gap? And then also, like, go ahead, Reg, can you answer that? Can you tell me what you think about, was that a clear question or do we get lost at
No,
Morgan Freeman with the chicken?
I was watching some program one time, or it was an article that it came out, and they were talking about how they had to get they were doing something tricky to get the bulls to sleep with the cows. And somebody was like, man, what's going on where the bulls don't fuck the cows no more? Like, why don't we, what's going on where we don't have, like, Grant said, what's going on where now we don't have to read books and retain information and be tested and just compete in the classroom? This is, you willing to go in here and let somebody crack your head open to put some chip and shit in there and be experimented on just to be able to have information randomly uploaded to you throughout the course of your life? That is a sad state of affairs if that's how we begin to close the gap and improve things versus just some solid parenting going on and some type of accountability with, do your work and bring home decent grades. We're going to circumvent all of that and just put you on this operating table and chip you. I'm dumbfounded.
Well, the question is, where's the desire to actually close the gap? And honestly, who's to say that the information that's going to be put on that chip is going to be helpful? And and this is like something else. Like Andrew, you do a lot of conversations about relationships and men and women and feelings. And now, basically, what these chips are, these invasive chips, are going to basically be able to upload feelings and suggestions and thoughts into your mind. Is there a future for? Does this impact the future of relationships, choosing our mates?
It probably would, but honestly, I think all of us here know at least 5 people that if you put this chip in their head, it wouldn't make a bit of difference. It's just
Right.
you
Right.
know, it ain't gonna make a difference in their life, and so it's so experimental that there's no telling what'll happen. Yo, do y'all remember that movie when they were cloning people who were they cloned them to be really smart? I mean, what's the big dude? I think it was Michael Clark Duncan was in it. And they tried to strap him down to the table and
Oh,
they
you're
they
talking
cloned.
about, yeah, I know it's what were you talking about. You're talking about when
Yes,
they used to clone people for farts.
right,
And
right.
it was with who was it?
Even McGregor, the dude from Star Wars, was in it.
Yes. Yeah.
And I forgot the girl.
I remember the name but go ahead.
Yeah, I was just saying, if you're gonna start putting chips in people's heads, that this is gonna be the next step. Doing something like they were doing on that movie where they just taking parts. And you like you said, kids gonna be the crash test dummies for this, or you know, I mean, who? Because you got to have a guinea pig to see if this
Right.
works. So who's gonna be the guinea pig? Is it
That's my That's my natural assumption. And the only rule that I can think of is that usually like the same rule I used to use with real estate back in the day. If someone's talking about it, it's already too late. It's already been, someone's already being experimented on right now. There are already groups of kids that are actually doing it. Manchurian candidate.
Yes.
Right. And I like what you led with there, Andrew, because like no matter even having the information, we've seen the internet, how the internet works. And the information is all out there. It doesn't mean that people are going to be able to formulate and disseminate the information properly. Just because it's there doesn't mean that you can actually utilize it to actually formulate a thought. And for some people, it may be, it's more of a affirmation. We live in a world, in a society where they've actually taken all of history and they've actually covered a lot of it. And they continue to cover it. You have explorers in the early 19th century, in the early 20th century, exploring vast lands and destroying artifacts and burying history because of the fact that they didn't like the truth that came out during those like lessons and those excursions. So I can't see it being anything different. Like Reg, you said the bulls can't fuck the cows right now. It's because we've taken away the nature of the bulls. The bulls are supposed to run. The bulls are supposed to run in a field. They are. And if they don't run in the field, it's the same thing you see with animals that are domesticated and born in zoos. You can't really take those animals and leave them out in the wild now because they're just basically prey for the other predators because they've been domesticated. When you are domesticated, you produce less testosterone. And this is what's been happening with humans, whether they like to admit it or not. There's a trade-off. Sure. You know what I'm saying? This guy may be an accountant. He may inherit his money. He may have a very nice house and a very nice car, and his kids may do the same things. But then we see the woman. And what is the woman looking for? The woman's looking for the alpha macho man to actually spend her time with. This whole thing, there's a whole thing in the sexual realm about men being cuckolded and like watching their wives have sex with other men that are quote unquote alpha men and everything. What's the difference? Where are the bulls? Speaking of bulls, exactly. Exactly. Speaking of bulls, see, this conversation could go wrong. It could go wrong, see? But it's true. I mean, how does that work exactly? We're being domesticated. You have I love these conversations because it's kind of like nature versus nurture versus like, the rubber hitting the road. You can only make so many decisions and you can only have so many positions about you can only be but so lazy before you actually begin to hurt yourself. And these men are not men. They're not men. So
I told you a couple of weeks ago when I had one of my social media run-ins, it was an article that I think it was the Black Enterprise Instagram account, and it was talking about some new laws. I can't remember the laws specifically, but one of the, it might have had something to do with music, but one of the commenters was like, tell me what it means. And I was like, I just said, well, bro, some things, if they mean that much to you, you could take this announcement, this post, and then you go Google it and read up on the law yourself. It was something about sentencing being changed for like marijuana or something. And it's like, okay, so you feel this passionate about it because you think it involves where it disproportionately affected Black people. But now you want somebody else to tell you what the law means when you can go read that shit for yourself.
Mm.
And he came back on me, and I'm like, no, bro, you just sat here as a man. You be calling me a clown and all these names, but you just sat here as a man and willingly told somebody else to explain something to you. I shouldn't even have to say nothing else to you about what you are about.
and then they got mad at you. I mean, listen, I faced a Facebook situation this week where I was unjustly given a problem, and I'm going to tell the story because I think that I was wrong. And the show is about fighting injustice, and injustice, no matter where it is, even on Facebook. So we were having this conversation. No, Clint, are you laughing at me or are you laughing with me? I don't know.
I'm laughing with you.
You
I'm laughing with
me,
you.
bro?
Yes, sir.
Because it was very disturbing. It was very disturbing. And before I got here, I actually got an update on this that my request was denied. To my complaint about the request was actually denied. And so now I have no place. And I have no place to go right now. No place to. I'm so distraught. I'm so upset. I don't know how I'm gonna sleep tonight. So anyway, this guy, it comes out. We're talking about. I forget what the subject was. It was something football or basketball, whatever. The guy was saying something, and I gave a very good answer, and I did what Reggie refused to do. I explained it. And the guy came back, and because I explained it, he said, "Oh, he said, well, ain't nobody gonna read all that, you nerd." And this and that and this. He called me a nerd. You know?
He hit you with
So-
he hit you with the TDLR?
Yeah. And you know what? It hurts because it hurts because I'm a large man. I'm somewhat in shape. And I'm not used to people calling me names because usually they don't call me names in person because I've got that snatch hand. You understand what I'm saying? So I can't use the snatch hand on the internet. I'm trying to explain this in the most clear, concise way that I possibly can. I can't use the snatch hand on the internet. So my response to him is what got me banned, and this is why I'm upset. I was like, "Oh, so you don't speak. You don't understand all of that language. How about this? You asshole," or something like that. I called him an asshole, and and it's like you could tell that the guy had taken a lot of thought in getting his response out, but he was very quick to hit that button and say that I was bullying him because I called him an asshole right away. And I complain to Facebook. They don't give you a chance to explain yourself. They only give you these certain categories. So what I said was that the reason why is because in my neighborhood, calling someone an asshole is not a slur. And they didn't buy it. They didn't buy that there was no insult there.
So here's what we can glean from the two conversations that you guys had.
Mhm.
The people that you guys were talking to, you know what? Those are going to be people that get chipped up.
Mhm.
Because
Yes, sir.
my man who didn't want to read the information and my man who couldn't read the information,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
they're gonna get chipped up, and then
Mhm.
they're gonna get, to X's point, they're gonna get the wrong information a lot of times because whoever's putting the chip in is controlling the information that you're gonna get.
Yep. And that was what I saw today on I saw a segment which actually brought me to this. This woman on Channel 5 here in New York. And she was saying, I don't want anybody chipping my head and giving me subliminal ideas in my head. And I'm just thinking to myself, I'm like, bitch, you watch Fox News. You were on Fox. A motherfucker is putting some subliminal shit in your head every 5 goddamn seconds. As a matter of fact, now I understand why you are the one giving the message because you are too fucking dumb to understand. And you're just reading the telestrator and you have no comprehension skills of what you're doing. So if you're that stupid, then I just have to give her a pass. She's just really that dumb. She's really just that dumb. And that's all I have to say about that. Gentlemen, any other things about the this
Hey,
chipping?
John,
Mm.
what if the chip that they put in your head just makes you more of what you already are, like when you're drinking? So basically, if you're an ass, it's just gonna make you a bigger ass. If you're dumb, you're just gonna be dumber.
Right.
If there's no guarantee that this is gonna have the reverse effect, on someone's brain
Bro,
as it would. You don't know.
my answer to that is that they already grow agave in Mexico. So so they already have tequila. You know what I'm saying? If you want to be dumber, you want to be smarter, you can go take your ass out. You get as drunk as you fucking want to be, and that's your fucking natural nature already has nature's chip is tequila. Okay, so we already have that out there. I don't know how that's going to work out, but it does work out. You know, look, the chip. I think that the chip is honestly, it's going to be used for conformity purposes. It's going to be used to deliver people into basically their lane. If you don't expect nothing, you already have a bunch of people that don't expect anything. They don't, they don't have, and that was what that conversation with that guy was about. That's what the whole conversation was. It was basically the UPS workers. Did we talk about the UPS workers last week?
Yeah.
I think we did, right? We talked about the UPS workers. It was talking about the UPS workers and how they had gotten their money. And these people are like really seriously upset that somebody else gets more money, is getting a living wage for doing work, for doing a job. And because it's not pushing buttons or doing something different. And I don't understand a society that doesn't cheer for its fellow man. And just before I got on here, it was on the NBA. Guy was talking about the NBA. Tyrese Halliburton came out. He said he doesn't like the rule that you have to play 65 games in order to be on an all NBA team. I don't like it either, but they're saying it's for load management. But we're talking basketball. Motherfuckers get injured. You get injured. You're going to miss games. Sometimes you miss games, not because of load management, but because you can't play. And this guy said, oh, well, you're simping for the players. And I was like, yeah, but you're simping for the owners. Who's fucking worse? Millionaires versus billionaires. You're mad, you're mad at these guys because, and it's the same thing. These themes keep repeating themselves over and over and over. We had the conversation about the job, $100,000 and everybody else makes 50, or 200,000 and everybody else makes $1 million. This is all of that. So you put that chip in, all it's going to do, it's going to create a conformity and a comfort for people. That's what I see the real danger in the chip is. The real danger in the chip is that the bulls won't want to fuck. That's the danger of the chip. Because we're taking away all of the vibrancy in life. And the thing is that's really crazy about it for me is that we're Generation X. I don't know, Andrew, you're a little bit younger, right? I think you're.
No, I'm probably the oldest on the panel. I'm on the other side of 50.
Okay, we're all on the other side of 50. So we're all like Generation X.
Yeah,
we don't. Oh, except for Wood. What is it? Wood is the youngest.
Wood ain't 50, is he?
I'm 48.
No. Yeah. So we come from a generation where you got up and you did shit. When you graduated from high school, Wood, you were looking around your neighborhood. You said, I can do this, or I can go join the Navy and go do some shit. These motherfuckers, they're like, I can do this, or I can go and I can play Call of Duty. And they're opting to play Call of Duty. They're not opting, and the world encourages them to play Call of Duty. The world does not encourage you to go out and forget about these mantras about dudes and working on engines. The world is not encouraging you to work on an engine block, motherfucker. They don't want you knowing how to put things together and take them apart. They want you to pay somebody else to do it.
Yeah. We're definitely in the easy times create weak men part of the equation.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? We definitely in that part of the equation because this chip, if it goes through, or if it's something that becomes a popular thing, that I think the real danger is that people are only gonna want more information that they believe.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So you're gonna create more fanatics. Right. Like and right. People are gonna be on one side of the spectrum. It's not gonna be people in the middle anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? There's gonna people are gonna be on extremes only. Because the information that they download is going to be the information that vibes with what they already believe. So, if I listen to Dr. Umar, let's say, I want all of the Dr. Umar. right?
All
And then I want, whoever else. I want all of the Farrakhan, or you know what I mean? And that's fine, but it's gonna tend to create, kind of a extremist, in my opinion, that would create kind of a extremist, fanatical kind of person.
Well, what you're talking about is personal development in people, and generally, like being well rounded. And being well rounded in today's society is something that's actually like frowned upon. If I
Right.
wanted to get up and I wanted to read a book about what happened in Nazi Germany pre World War II, there would be a certain amount of people that would feel a certain way about the fact that I'm even reading about and educating myself about that subject. And this is the way it is. We look at this, what's going on right now in Israel. We haven't talked about Israel on this show since, like, pretty much they first started
Mhm.
bombing in Israel. Because what did I say the first show? I was like, well, they started the bombing in Israel. It's a wrap. It's over. See you in Palestine as Israel months from now. Because if anyone who has actually read and studied and learned anything about it and knew anything about this area, you knew that this was the end goal. They're still not trying to stop. They're not stopping. The job ain't done yet. The job ain't done yet. When the job is done, then they'll stop invading Palestine. They'll stop blowing up people in tents and all that other stuff. And we're just not talking about it because it's done. And it doesn't make any sense to talk about it. We had nothing to do with it before. We had nothing to do with it after. Okay, we personally on this panel have no power. It doesn't make any sense to get upset about it. It's like getting upset about the fact that, something I read or before I came here, I'm cruising the internet. Rick Ross is accused of sleeping with some other rapper's girlfriend while he was in jail. This is the important news in the Black community.
Oh, man. Don't get me started on that.
Clutch the pearls.
I thought that's what we were something that you mentioned earlier, John, or maybe it was in a text or something, and we got around to it. But it is this we're in this era where the reaction to someone not agreeing with you or challenging what you said is like not to bring in something new, but so Most Def was on some podcast with a female host, and he went on and attacked Drake and said Drake was like a target rapper, a target shopping. He's so popular. And his facial expressions and his energy was like he was slamming Drake for that. And it became a thing. And then, it took off. And now he gets back on live. He gets on his live and says, well, he basically walks it back and was like, well, it was no malice. But it's like, brother, it wasn't just what you said, it's how you said it and the body language and the facial expressions that you frown upon what Drake does. But then you get down into the comments and everybody is all over the place with it. And I'm like, now I know damn well what I heard and what I saw, but now y'all, just based on y'all's allegiances to these different people, we can't even talk about what really happened. So I was like, man, let me back away from this shit. Because like you just said, it's meaningless anyway. That's what we spending investing all our energy in as a Black community. What the fuck Yassine Bey / Most Def said about Drake?
But it's not
Right.
meaningless. It's not meaningless because they actually are eating it up. It's not meaningless. A brother like Yassine Bey, who's a very deep dude who has all this knowledge and everything, there's still a lot of times, no matter how much knowledge you have, it doesn't stop you from being vapid, from being it's like the shot at Drake is unnecessary and everything. He sings songs to women and everything.
Yeah, he's this generation's LL.
Yeah. But listen, you go to the party and everything, you want the women at the party. You don't want you don't want to go to a party where they busting NWA all night
Right.
and everything.
All of our
Somebody's
legs at
gonna
the
get
party.
shot. Somebody's gonna get shot.
No
Go to Drake's
backpack
party.
rap.
Huh?
No backpack rappers. No backpack rappers.
What's a
What you saying?
yeah?
I'm back.
I'm saying like no, none of the trap guys. Like yo, I mean, but then they expect it though. But it's like and now it's like well, I used to always choose parties. Like I've said this before in the shows, and like Grant, you heard me say this. We went to college together and everything.
Mhm.
When we were choosing parties, like yo, where are we gonna go? And like I was always, I was always good for getting the cats on third floor to go to the right parties.
Right.
Like where are we gonna go? I was like, well, this party sounds like fun. This party sounds like fun, but this party sounds like there'll be less niggas there. So let's go there. So that way we can actually eat tonight. Everybody can eat. And I
Right.
wasn't thinking about myself. I was thinking about everybody because I had to live in a community with the cats on the third floor. So like Ray can tell you, like I've always been the same asshole, but there were
Third
certain
world, baby.
things, the third world, baby, but there were certain things that I wanted brothers, listen, I'm going out there. I know I'm gonna convince somebody to do something and everything, but I want my brothers to have the best chance too, because I want y'all to be happy because we live in the same space. It's a community thing. We don't have this community thing. We're being pushed away from the community thing and the community thought process, thinking about what's good for each other as opposed to what's good for the individual. And that's where we're getting fucked up. So listen, I was
But
listening to a conversation that was kind of right up Andrew's like lean this weekend with the marriage, and it was a TikTok talk, and this woman was talking about men not getting married. The usual tropes, Andrew, the usual stuff. Guys don't want to get married; they just want the cookie. They're just doing this. Women need to protect their energy. We're queens and so and so, yada yada. Listen, just imagine that you haven't heard this, and the reason why I say this is because there are going to be 50 more shows about dating, marriage, relationships, sex, and everything. And everybody's still going to go out and do the same type of stuff that they did before, listening to them afterwards, and so on and so forth. It's going to keep going. But the question was, is marriage necessary? And there was this one cat that got on the panel, and he was just cooking. And he was saying that you shouldn't get married. It's a piece of paper. It just causes you more problems. I think I've heard you talk about this before. Do you feel like as opposed to a civil ceremony, do you think marriage is a necessary construct in society today?
The way the society is going, I would probably say is the most common natural reaction would be probably say no. However, I talk about on the podcast, I talk about how marriage is in a man's best interest at some point in his life because married men, live longer than single men. That's number one. So it's literally can be an issue of life and death. The other thing is that when you are married, you're not out in the street as much. And so you're going to experience 4 times less violence than a single man is because you're not in areas to where you're going to be at home for the most part. And, combine that with the overall structure of a family, I just think now, if you want to say if the father's in the home versus not in the home, can you still not be married under those circumstances? It's a lot to it. So it's hard to just narrow it down to say, just give a yes or no answer where it's really cut and dry. But in some situations, I think the best possible scenarios for if you're dealing with children is to have both parents in the home.
Mhm.
When y'all were talking about the money before, I grew up, we were all pretty much Gen Xers. So my dad told me when I was a teenager, don't ever worry about what's in another man's pockets. Just worry about what's in your pocket and don't get caught up in the next man's salary or check or any of that. Because what does that got to do with what money you bring into the table with your family and everything? So I never really looked at what people made. It never really bothered me. But I think overall, it's in a black man. It's probably at some point to be in his best interest to be married. Now that don't mean just marry anybody. I always say when a trial lawyer goes to trial, they say half the battle, 50% of the victory is picking the right jury. Well, I think that same thing applies when you're picking a spouse or a wife.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
You got to pick the right one. Don't go for the prettiest girl in the room. Maybe go down a notch in beauty to get compatibility and less crazy. Just that's what you got to do, you know. So if men can put their egos in check, they might be all right. But you know, the way some women are out here today, I'm seeing some of these female rappers, and if these girls are copying and emulating them, and we in trouble, brother.
Mm. Grant, do you feel at risk not being a married man at your age?
I feel
Go
it. I
ahead.
feel at risk for being one of the people that never gets married. Yes, if at risk is the word, you know what I mean. If that's the phrase that we gotta use, that's what I feel at risk for. I don't feel, you know, I believe in marriage. I think marriage is a beautiful institution. I know some people that have been highly successful at it.
Mhm.
So I just don't think that the way that our society is going, that marriage is something that is uh gonna be somehow it's gonna have to change. I don't know how it's gonna change, but somehow it's gonna have to change in order to get these younger people to believe in marriage the way that people in our age and better
Mhm.
believe in marriage. I think the hookup culture has become such a deterrent to marriage. Like there's no courtship anymore. There's no you don't even meet somebody. Like you see them on you swiping left or whatever you're doing on whatever app. You know what I mean? So you don't even meet them organically. So there's no conversation. There's no, hey, I
Understand.
like you're right. There's no I like what she looks like. I like what he looks like. She talks this way, he sounds this way, she smells this way. There's none of that. It's just swipe left, swipe right, shoot the shot, and score.
Mm.
So
You know,
that
50. Go ahead. Go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say that culture is changing what marriage looks like to people.
I thought it was interesting because it seemed to me like, from listening to the conversation, it was a TikTok, and I don't know if you guys have ever listened to conversations on TikTok and watched them. They're wild. You can have like as many as 8 people in there, and everybody's throwing out their opinions and their crazy points of view. And there's always one person in the conversation that personalizes the conversation. And that's what happened. There was this one woman that personalized it. This brother was cooking. He was a, I personally don't believe in the traditional marriage. I believe in civil ceremony. You can pretty much you can have all of your important documentation, you can have written over to your spouse without you actually getting that piece of paper, and including finances and all those things. And I say, and people say, well, that's not a real marriage. To me, I feel like if you can't have those conversations honestly with the person that you're with, you probably shouldn't be married anyway, because there's nothing realer than that. That's the reason why you're actually together, to actually look out for that person individually or not look out for that person individually. But bringing the state into the marriage and everything is something different. It's that legalization. And this brother was really cooking based upon that, saying that having the state in your marriage is never a good thing. It's never a good
Mhm.
thing. You're bringing a third party in. And that's the way I've always felt about it. You're bringing a third party that has nothing to do with our relationship into the conversation and into the relationship. And this one woman, she kind of personalized that. She was like, I'm in the process of getting divorced right now. And I don't agree with that because I'm the one that has to pay alimony out to my husband. So I don't understand how that works. And I'm thinking to myself, like, if you weren't married and if you had a civil ceremony instead, wouldn't it actually bolster your position in not paying alimony? If you have kids, you're still common law after a certain amount of years anyway. But doesn't it kind of it kind of proves the point that it's not really a necessary thing. Like, I think that a lot of these things that we do, one of the reasons why gay marriage passed a couple of years ago is because it's a big money maker. Because now all of those gay people, they can go out and they can have marriages, they can have ceremonies, they're spending money in the economy. But also when they get divorced, they got to get attorneys like everybody else. They've got to go to the state now and they've got to dissolve it. And that's more money for the attorneys. Don't you think that we have enough information in the state? Like, Wood, Johnson, I've heard you guys talk about your marriages. Beautiful thing. You know what I'm saying? You found your queens, right? Am I wrong? If I'm wrong, you better speak up now because I hope they listen to this conversation.
No, I'm good, bro. I'm
All
good.
right. All right. You found
Yeah.
your queens. It's
Yeah.
not your issue. But when you're giving advice to other people and everything, what to look for in their queens, what is it that you give them at this point in time? Do you look for, team, look for people who are a team like Rick Rose or a team like, these important things, these important issues. How do you, Andrew, have a love conversation with people that don't really understand the aspects of partnership?
That's a good question. John, I tell you what, a lot of people have a really right now, we're in a culture where when we are getting married, a lot of the youngers, the millennials and Gen Zers, they're marrying for lifestyle. They ain't marrying for love.
Mhm.
So it's about, how much money is this man making? Um, what connection can I get through this marriage? How am I gonna get, you know, what's in it for me is
Mm,
basically what you have going on. So the problem with that is that that's counterintuitive to what actually marriage is. It's counterintuitive to what
mm,
love is. If you with somebody and you love somebody, it's about you giving up something, sacrifice. You're gonna give up a piece
ah,
of something.
wait, hold on. Did you say sacrifice?
Yes,
I'm sorry. Go
yes.
ahead. All right, go ahead. I'm sorry. You scared me for a minute. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's
Sacrifice.
like you got to give up something
What
in
a
order to
noble
receive
concept.
something, and you got to be willing to give up something, and you might not get equal value back.
Like what?
Think about
Like my
it.
girlfriends? Like my time with my fellas? Like,
Yeah.
money? Like, what do you mean give something up? Yeah,
Well,
I'm
look at
supposed to have it all in my relationship.
exactly, and that's what the problem is that people, you know what it is. I say this before, back in the day, if you go back just one or two generations, people got married, out of need. A woman might have been
Mm,
struggling a little bit financially. A guy came along, he might not have been very attractive or nothing, but he has some resources and he could take care of them. They get in a Honda Accord and drive off and be married.
mhm,
No harm, no foul. They happy. Now that some women now making their own money, they're making a relatively reasonable salary, and they think because they can, they got their own place, they can pay their own bills, and they can be self sufficient. They're not focusing on need; they're focusing on want. And I
mm,
and wants are just nothing more than a wish and a desire. I want you to think about something. Anytime you think about go back in your life, anytime you've gotten exactly what you wanted, usually it's to your detriment because you're not supposed to get every single thing that you want. You
mm,
get your
Mm.
needs. You don't
Mm.
get your wants. So that's the hardest thing to explain to people is that you're not going to get everything that you want. You shouldn't get it. If you find somebody and you got a want checklist of all the things you want in your spouse or whatever, honestly, if you get a majority of it, no, say 50, 60%, you
mhm,
won. You won. Sit
mm,
down, shut that thing down, and go on and ride off in the sunset.
mm,
Because you ain't getting 100.
mm.
You're not
Nobody
getting,
is.
this build a boo. I'm gonna get the man to look like this, make all the money. He's gonna be a corporate Tupac, and he's gonna love me, and he's gonna take my braids out at night. That's not happening. That man don't
A
exist.
corporate Tupac.
That man don't exist.
Yeah.
He said, he got me with taking my brains out at night.
Yeah.
Oh,
Some
shit.
Yeah.
women want you to take their
You're
braids
working
out
with
at
the
night after
comb.
you don't. Yeah, after you done.
So
I saw another woman say to the fact that I gotta be the man. He's gonna have to be able to handle me. I'm like, look, I worked in prison. The last thing I want to do is have to come home after working in a prison and handling a woman.
right.
Mm,
You know what I'm saying?
So,
I want to be handling no woman when I'm just came after working out and being in the prison all damn day.
let me ask this: how long is your average podcast, Andrew?
A good question. Generally speaking, the shortest one has been about 20 minutes and the longest one is about 50. So it just
Too long.
depends on the subject matter.
Okay.
You-
And X, how long were you listening to the relationship advice that you were listening to, X?
It was like probably about well, I listened to it wasn't advice. I was listening to it for like
Or
probably
the
about
show?
40 minutes. I was
Okay.
listening to it for 40 minutes, but
See,
listen. No, I was listening to it because it was so fucking entertaining. The way that
right.
the people were
I
coming
get it.
in, they were coming in and they were coming in with these takes that were so hot, that were so flaming and they were so ridiculous. And it was like they were just trying to jump over each other and
I
everything.
get it.
I think that social media is like really fascinating at times when it's done wrong. Not when it's done
Right.
right. When it's done wrong,
So
you know what
here
I'm
we go.
saying?
So here we go. So the women that Andrew was referring to that want the corporate Tupac to take the braids out at night, those women are getting most of their relationship advice in 60-second snippets from TikToks, from Instagram videos, from wherever. So how do you and the algorithm is sending them more of the same, right?
Mhm.
So how do you so let me reverse it. How do I, as single Grant Lancaster out here, how do I get one of these heifers to understand, hey, look here, bitch, that shit, that's, them snippets that you looking at, them snippets that you looking at is fucking you up in the head.
Mhm.
Yeah.
How do I get her to understand that?
You know,
Well,
that's a good question. You know what they say? It's like you got to get them away from the group, and
Right,
you got to get them in a one-on-one situation and kind of break it down to them like that. Like because you're not gonna. I mean, people are watching social media and think they're supposed to have the same thing that they have on social media.
right,
I've seen some women sitting up there saying, repeating things they heard on a reality TV show. I'm like, talking about they need the cars because of this, that, and the other. I'm like, that ain't their cars, right?
right.
mhm,
The show leases the cars and the houses that they in. You're aware of that,
mhm,
right?
Mm,
No, they don't. They're not aware of that. They literally believe that that lifestyle is attainable to them. That
mhm.
now it's getting to the point, John and guys, it's getting to the point where women are saying on first dates, you got to spend in the hundreds on a
Yeah,
first date.
I've read that.
And I'm like, well, wait, what in the world? This is like new. Like even for me doing the show, I'm hearing women saying you got to spend $300-400 or don't even entertain going out on a date with me. And these girls are 49ers.
okay,
Mhm,
I won't.
Yeah, they're 49ers. These are girls who are
mhm,
fours but think they nines, and they're
mhm.
asking for this stuff.
Right.
You know, they're asking. I'm not talking about the football team going to the Super Bowl neither.
I'm glad you
These are
clarified that because I'm like,
49ers. I love that. I love
yeah,
that.
it's
That
like
is,
that.
that's
Yeah, you can write
crazy.
that one down. These are
Yeah. Yeah,
these
I'm
are
gonna
these are
give you credit for that twice, and then it's mine.
these are what it is like, you know, before, when we were dating. I'm so glad social media wasn't around when we was out when I was single.
Man,
Gosh, man, you don't know because like I look at it now, it's like girls who were like fives and unders kind of
Mhm.
didn't ask for nothing. They didn't ask for big things. They were just happy that you was spending some time with them.
Well,
mhm,
But
unfortunately,
now it's the like that's like they want the same treatment as like a Rihanna or
unfortunately,
someone that looked like that.
unfortunately, in my younger years, I was hanging out with Mr. Brooks, and he had me doing all types of evil things with women, like making them buy us beer and alcohol and things like that, just for us to drive and over there. And he is the one who came up with all of those ideas. I was innocent and just following his lead.
Mr.
And I, very ashamed that some of the things that he actually led us through right now. But he's not here to defend himself right
The
now.
man ain't
He's
even
not
here to
here.
defend himself.
He's not here. He's not here. So, and by next week, I'll probably forget all about it. So, you know, this is always the check. This is to find out whether or not he actually listens or watches the show. Because, like, you know, I'll know next week when it starts and he says, oh, my idea, hey, motherfucker. So, but, you know, but listen, I mean, this 5 and the 9 thing. It's like a give and take. You know what I'm saying? It's like what what we're discussing is just simply like how you actually can pull a meat. Everybody ain't worth it. Everybody don't have that value. You know what I'm saying? And every man isn't going to spend his money on that. You know, women don't want to be called hoe and gold digger and things of that nature, but they want to be able to behave like hoes and gold diggers. And it just doesn't make any sense. And this is a no offense. This is like, you know, like Grant, you used the B word. You said like, you know, somebody will take that and they'll be like, he calls all women bitches. Nah, the ones that actually are bitches, you call a bitch. You have to
Right.
call a spade a spade. The same way you call a dude that's a dude, not all men are bad and everything. And if you call them out their name and they actually fit that, then that's right. They're just throwing these terminologies, throwing these terms all out there and just like everything goes and everything. And it doesn't work out because people don't. But then again, when I think about it, and like Andrew, most people don't even take the time to get to know themselves these days. They don't know what makes themselves happy, what they actually want to do. They're too busy following around, which is why this AI chip thing is so dangerous because it's going to tell you from the beginning what you're going to be. It's kind of taking over for God. God may have intended you to be something different, but don't worry, we're going to program that shit out of you. This is the society that we're moving into.
Well, John, you know, I did a episode on a podcast and it was entitled Self-Awareness is the New Sexy. And the reason being is that most people out here who are dating and in relationships have no idea who they are.
None.
They're getting the results. They're getting the results of a person that has no idea who they are. You know, it's just if I was to tell Grant, anyone out there that was single out there, I would just simply say, look, find a woman that's self-aware. If you want to go to that level of marriage or, you know, cohabitating or whatever it is, you know, if she's self-aware, all the other pieces will sort of fall into place because she won't be too ridiculous in some of her requests or demands because she'll know who she is and she'll respect decisions that you make. You know, so
Mhm.
it's important for men and women for that matter, but especially nowadays, women they need to be self-aware. I mean, that's the best way I could put it.
Well, it's not. Go ahead, Reg.
I can't really say a whole lot in this whole topic because
I know because your wife is listening.
that and I've been out the game. You know, my jersey is my jersey would be a retro jersey if they took it down from the rafters. Like and it had several iterations of the jersey since I retired. But I was at the liquor store a while ago in one of the aisles, and it was two younger women shopping for something, man. And like Grant was saying, the nowadays to meet and to look at potential mates by swiping left or right or whatever that shit is. It was weird to me that I was, you know, 2 or 4 feet away from them, and it was like no, they didn't even acknowledge me. And it's just like y'all out in public, and you don't look at a man's shoulders or his height, his shoes, his outfit or whatever. It was like I was fucking invisible. And I'm like, even though I'm married, you know, I'm not looking at the roses from time to time. I still notice
Right.
a ass or some titties or something. And it
Mhm.
was like I was invisible. And it like I literally just stared at them for 30 seconds straight. Like, are they gonna see me staring at them? It was oblivious to me even being there. So I just like I don't know what the connection is like if it for in real time, in real life.
Well, and on this, I'm gonna end the show. We're pretty much close to an hour. It's been a great show, but I have, I'm a flirt, in real life, but I'm a subtle flirt and everything. My spouse knows it. She knows that, that I work it to a certain extent and everything. And I'll go in, and I like to see how people, and I've always like still flirted even in my relationship. That don't mean that I'm going to hook up with nobody. I don't do that. I don't really, generally it's like anyone that knows me, it's like I'm not into that. But even in real time, what I've noticed over the past, I would say 5 to 7 years, the most, and Grant can tell you, Grant, did I have some lines back in the day? Did I have some lines
Oh,
back in the
absolutely.
day?
Yeah,
Okay.
he had some play, had a little play in it.
I had a little play in me. And it's like, people used to ask me, what are your lines? I used to be like, I don't know. I can't tell you to this day. It just comes natural to me, just talking to women. And now I think I started talk. And now I like have little conversations and I say little things to these like younger women right now. And the reactions are so fucking like, to what you just said, Reg. The reactions are so like extreme that like really it's like if I was running a playalicious class like back in the day, all right, you hope to get this reaction on this at this day, this reaction at this time, this reaction on this time, and then this reaction. Like now it seems like the slightest conversations are the ones that are paying attention, saying one thing, and like you go from like day one to day like 8 within like 2 sentences because they're not used to that interaction. Their
Mhm,
skills are not sharpened. They don't
mhm.
understand how to interact and have conversation. And that makes me pull back from being a natural flirt because
So,
now it's like these motherfuckers are taking it they take it too extreme too quickly,
so,
you know?
to your point, I can be because I just started drinking bourbon a little bit recently, and it's like
Mhm.
I've been in there in that same aisle, and it's an older white guy or just a white guy, and I just, hey, what kind of bourbons you into? And we go off into this whole discussion. So I'm sitting there with them in the bourbon aisle, like, is it a chance for us to exchange some notes and what y'all into? But like you said, it was like you're clearly not welcomed in our conversation for nothing. We don't want to know what you drink, what you would recommend, how you would pair this, or just nothing. And I was like, man, let me get my shit and get the fuck up out of here and go.
Mhm.
It was wild to me.
Well, you know what? That's something different. It's something the same, but it's different. And to which I would say to that is like, God bless, get your shit and go, because the motherfuckers don't need your information.
Exactly.
Let them eat their, let them drink let them lick on the salt lick on their tongue the next morning from having that bad bourbon. If you don't, I don't have a need. And that's what they do. They trick people nowadays. They give you this thing where they make it so that you have to people need to, or they want you to want to give them everything, to give them the information for race. Well, tell me what the promise is. Well, tell me what you're talking about. Explain it to me. Prove a false negative. Go into detail and write an essay for me and explain it to me in so much detail that I can just understand it, whatever. And then I just be like, okay, like whatever. Nah, motherfuckers, y'all got to do this shit for yourself, or get your goddamn chips. Get your chips.
Get your tips.
Get your
Yeah.
chips. Yo, fellas, it's been an hour. Thank you. Mr. Andrew Johnson, host of the 313 podcast. Andrew, when do you have your podcast? When are your shows?
Uh, I'm unique in this way. They always say you should release it during the week, but I release one every Saturday at 7 o'clock Eastern time in the morning. We
All right.
got, yeah, 7 o'clock Eastern time. We put it out there. We got a series going on right now that we're doing about once every 4 to 6 weeks. I'm doing an episode on men and addiction. So
Okay.
we already did one, which was talking about how drugs and substances work in your body. Then we're going to get into drug of choices and manipulation and recovery, relapse. We're going to cover about 12. We're going to do 12 or 13 episodes this year just on that topic.
Hmm.
But we're going to continue to focus on the marriage, the money. We did one on conscious spending and financial goals a couple weeks ago. So it covers a broad array of topics for men and women, really,
Yep.
to use to their advantage. It's just, a matter of them being willing to take a few minutes out of their day and
Yeah.
check it out.
Yeah. And I've actually been a guest on your show before.
Yes, you've been on there.
We were talking about more serious than this show, something that actually shows actually who I was. So you have to go look for that
Hey,
some other time.
man,
But Andrew, thank you for filling in. Go ahead, Reggie. What were you gonna say?
Absolutely, brother.
it's very important how much bulls and cows are fucking. I don't know what you're talking about. That's some serious shit now.
Yeah.
For real, that's some existential shit right there.
Without a
Yeah.
doubt.
You know what, Reg? If you didn't say it, it would still be true. Mr. Reggie Wood. And of course, my brother, the City Red King, Mr.
Yes,
Greg
sir.
Lancaster from Detroit, Michigan.
That's right. What it do?
What it do? And a special shout out once again to Mr. Brooks and Mr. Hopkins there. May you be out there. I was just checking to make sure that nobody's watching the stream before I said something bad about Rob. Because, he's like, my brother. It's my brother from another mother. Fellas, everybody, thank you for listening to Born in Trouble. And of course, the podcast will be up in a couple of days. And I appreciate you guys for coming in. Andrew, thank you for coming and filling in and bringing us like the depth of what you do. And hey, peace.
Take it easy. Thanks for having me on, brother.